We ain't going nowhere. They can't be stopped now. 'Cause we're bad boy for life. Oh, what's up? What's going on, guys? Y'all caught me. I was in the middle of I was kind of listening to some music and stuff earlier, and sure enough, man, they had Diddy up on there. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, whatever he wants to call himself this week. Dude's got like 700 names. He's got as many names as he's got companies. It's kind of ridiculous how much business Diddy's got going on. Or Sean Puffy Combs or whatever he wants to call himself this week. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because you know what? Diddy's back in the news. Yep. And kind of like when I was talking about The Rock, I'm not going to bash him 100% because I think Sean Combs, the man, has done a lot of great work, everything with his entertainment brand and everything. Because I mean, when he came up, we knew him as Puff Daddy. He was part of the entourage with Biggie Smalls. You remember Biggie Smalls, Mr. Biggie, Big Big, can't you see? Somehow your words just hypnotize me. Yeah, that one. We got to go back to the late 90s for that. Well, that's going way back in the day, way back. But what I loved about, the music, it's something you can get into. It wasn't quite, it was East Coast gangster rap type thing. But from there, Puff Daddy's kind of expanded. Like he got into clothing, he had the Sean John brand, which I was a huge fan of for many years. And well, I want to get into this story here because, well, apparently Sean Combs is going to be launching his own political party. And I want to get into this here because I think this is a story that you guys need to know about. And then I want to talk about certain levels of stupidity because I think while individuals like Sean Combs and certain other people have the right idea in terms of trying to reach out to people, galvanize folks, I think what they're doing is rather counterproductive to what they're trying to do, and it's going to create further division. So, the story here I got from complex.com. And what it notes here is that Diddy's retracted his statement earlier this year. He made a statement that the Democrat Party and the Republican Party were going to have to jock for the black vote. Interesting how these are self appointed black leaders. And I think a lot of people like him and Ice Cube recently in the news and certain other folks, they've said this for a number of years, but you're seeing it more so now from these so-called prominent celebrities where they're talking about, you're not going to just be able to get the black vote for free. And one of the things that's always bothered me about that was how they assume that every black person just has this homogenous way of thinking that everybody's supposed to vote the same, think the same, act the same. And Joe Biden was kind of right. Um, and he was very wrong when he said, unlike the black voters, the Hispanic community is a very diverse community. Well, he was kind of right in that. Yes, the Hispanic community is a very diverse community. Not everybody's a liberal, not everyone's a conservative. But that's also the same way in the black community as well. And I think a lot of the liberal Democrats tend to forget that. So this is something I think is important, something that needs to be talked about. But again, I think they're going to be a little more counterproductive than what they think they're going to be doing. So Sean Combs was in an interview with Charlemagne the God, and the pair discussed Diddy's controversial comments. A couple months ago, I told everybody hold their vote hostage, Diddy said. It would be irresponsible of me to have us hold our vote hostage, but it would also be irresponsible of me to just let the moment go by. The world is watching, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure that going forth, we're putting a narrative, or we're a part of the narrative, that we own our politics. And I need to stop right there. Our politics. I just think it fascinates me when people think, it's just our politics for the black community. And I think when you're having, black neighborhoods, certainly that is your politics, your policies, your community. That's true. But that also negates all the other people in other neighborhoods that aren't, that don't typically go along with the way you guys think. But the article continues. He also shared his plan for a new political party that aims to uplift the agenda of America's black community. And I'm launching one of the boldest movements that I have ever launched. It's called Our Black Party. It's time for us to have our own black political party, unapologetically, because right now, if you look at the debates, we're not even part of the conversation. What about Kamala Harris? I thought she was like part black or she part Indian or She part Asian. I mean, she doesn't even know what the hell she is anymore. Anyway, um, Sean Combs continues because right now, if you look at the debates, we're not even part of the conversation. We don't have any political power. We don't have any political leverage. So we started our Black Party with some young, fearless Black activists, elected officials, and I've stepped up and put money behind it. He made a similar remark on Twitter, opening with the number one priority is to get Trump out of office. He has to go. We can't allow this man to continue to try and divide us. The people that have been most responsible and should be scared to death of this man are white people. We are on the verge of a race war. Diddy also endorsed Biden, but let it be known that if Biden is elected, he will hold him to a higher standard. We need to get Biden in and hold him accountable. Trump has taken things too far. As Black people, we aren't even a topic of real discussion. We can no longer stand for doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That's insanity. It's time we unify. Things got too serious. It would be irresponsible of me to hold our vote hostage, but it also be irresponsible because he goes on with that there. And this is from October 16th here. So I wanted to dissect this. Now, before I dissect this, first, let's just talk about Sean Combs here. Like I said, the guy's a businessman. He's, in fact, I believe, worth as of 2020. I'm pulling it up right now, and I don't know if you guys are getting it on screen. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But like I said, he's got a lot of different things going on, enough where he's able to take his rap career and expand it into an almost $1 billion net worth for himself. Now that includes all his assets, cash, jewelry, all the other stuff, business holdings, everything else. Not only has he invested wisely, but yeah, as of 2020, his estimated net worth is $85 million to 855 million dollars to 885 million. Wow. Try to wrap your head around those numbers. But on top of his net worth being that, I mean, yes, it's just shy of $1 billion. But again, if we take a look at the different business ventures that he's been involved in. So like I said, we got Bad Boy Entertainment. We got the Sean John clothing outline. We got the Combs Wine and Spirits. If you guys are familiar with Ciroc, you guys would be familiar with the brand that Sean Combs, Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever he wants to call himself, is a part of. He's got Aqua Hydrate, which is a sports energy drink. You got the Blue Flame Agency. I can't remember that one. Revolt Films and Revolt Media and TV has got partnerships with Comcast. Again, he has his wine and spirits, which has a partnership with Diageo. So and Diageo is probably I think it's the single biggest alcohol and spirits, wine and spirits company out there. So if you take a look at all of these things on top of all the groups and people that he's managed, I mean, he's been involved with different entertainers. I remember one of the ones real popular several years ago, Danity Kane. So he's definitely been involved with people's careers musically, wine and spirits, media. He's got his hands in everything, and now he's kind of getting into this. On top of all that, he's had a lot of other philanthropic work too. He's donated over $1 million to Howard University, a traditionally Black college. He's involved with several different AIDS foundations, diabetes foundations. So the man, like I said, I don't want to downplay any of his work. He's a responsible father to, I believe it is his 6 children, one of which isn't even his own. I believe he was adopted, but I think there is a family tie there. Wow, we still got Borat down there. I gotta lift that up here a bit. Darlene, how are you doing tonight? Good to see you tonight. I'll probably be doing another show here on the podcast. I'm gonna launch this onto the podcast too once I'm done. But I want to dissect what Sean Combs is saying here. So he says that the number one priority is to get Trump out of office. Okay, interesting. But I seem to recall a number of pictures in the late 90s, early 2000s with him and Donald Trump taking pictures together. My, how times have changed. And I find it even more interesting. So he's saying that the Black community needs to have its own political party. All right, to a certain extent, I can kind of understand that. Because when you talk about, historically, Black entrepreneurship, The black family. Remember how solid they used to be 30, 40 years ago? Even further back? Look up Black Wall Street. When there were black entrepreneurs in neighborhoods that actually gave a damn about their community, the only thing that stopped them was systemic racism. But that systemic racism came from the left. That came from liberal, leftist mayors, governors, and even the Democrat presidents of that time. LBJ, remember that guy in particular? So those were the things that helped to tear down the black community. So I find it fascinating and rather disingenuous that individuals like Sean Combs and others will go out there and still try to pin this on individuals like Donald Trump when he is the one. And all you need to do is just go back over the last 24 months. No, you don't even need to go anything further back than that. Forget the NAACP awards. Forget any of that other stuff. Just look at the money that he's been able to allocate to the historically black colleges. Take a look at what black unemployment has been prior to COVID. Take a look at what it's been through other minority communities prior to COVID. If you take a look from COVID on, if you look at that as the metric, what you're going to find is that that has crossed and crushed everybody across the socioeconomic strata. And yes, has it been disproportionate to minorities? Unquestionably. But why is that? Ask yourself. And I'll give you the answer. It has crushed disproportionately to minorities because a lot of minorities have settled for just working menial retail service related jobs rather than sharpening the saw, rather than increasing their skills and knowledge base. And a lot of that, I think, is a cultural thing. This is something where people need to be able to believe in themselves enough to invest in themselves rather than look for other people to invest in them to get out of their current situation, to go above and beyond that. Okay. Now that is it's kind of a separate issue, but at the same point, it goes to the idea of stop looking at yourself as a collective, which is something that the left does very well. Again, Combs is looking to do our black party, our black political party, whatever he wants to call it. The problem is, though, is that he's endorsing Joe Biden. He's saying Joe Biden needs to win. Well, if you are truly going to have your own political party, you're not going to endorse either Donald Trump or Joe Biden. So, you talk about how we can't allow this man to continue to try and divide us. Donald Trump has done everything he could, short of just bending over and giving you everything you wanted. And no businessman, nobody worth their weight would ever do that. And it's absolutely absurd to think that because he's not capitulating to your every demand, that somehow this is further dividing you. Your divide came from yourselves. The more you kept buying into the demagoguery and the BS from the left, the further you bought into that division. Because all you need to, hell, you can do a simple Google search. You go look on Google, Bing, Yahoo, whatever your search engine of choice is, DuckDuckGo, doesn't matter. You do any of that. Do your research into the Democrat Party. Do your research into the Republican Party. Go into it with an open mind. Study this stuff, and you will actually be able to find for yourself who is really driving the wedge between various peoples economically, socially, ecumenically. I just like using that word ecumenically. Don't know why. It just sounds really cool. Don't ask me to spell it either. And then, of course, he goes on to say that we're on the verge of a race war. Interesting. And who exactly is pushing this race war? Because for those of us on the right, we have taken the idea that we're looking at the content of the character of the individual versus the color of the skin of that person. And it's rather interesting as somebody who lives in a community with over 90% plus white base in this area. I've actually had people come up to me, my God, you got a really good tan. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. I was born with it. It's not Maybelline. It's kind of real, But I would love to see. I really do think that Combs is really on to something here. I think if he wants to have a political party, that is focused on the Black community. I think that's actually a good thing. I think by doing something like that, it would give Black people something to aspire to. It would give them, you know, I mean, and we're not talking about just setting up an inner city gym, rec center, or something else like that. We're not talking about just life skills, other things like that. You know, I'm thinking if you're going to have something like this, you need to have it so where you have people taking pride in their communities. Have it so where people are looking out for their communities and taking out the bad elements of their communities, getting rid of the drugs, getting rid of the drug dealers, getting rid of all the garbage that's holding people down. Because I think if you can do something like that, what you're going to do is you're going to create more empowerment. You're going to get those young minority boys and girls to grow up and to be strong, confident, you know, people of color, whatever adjective you want to give them, or just Americans. Tracy, how you doing tonight? Good to see you on. Going on over here about Diddy, Puffy, Sean Puffy Combs. Let's go back over here. Yeah, so he's got all these little tweets going on. I'll pull it back up here. Going nowhere. We ain't going nowhere. We can't be stopped now because it's bad boy. I got that track in my head, man. Anyway, so Diddy, he tweeted more about the November 3rd election. He goes, we can protest all we want, but to win, we have to build our own Black political army. To do that, we have to be trained and organized, and our own Black party is doing that. Now, it's 2020, so we can take everything out of context. What does train and organized mean? But I'd like to think he's not talking militia or anything crazy like that. He further tweets there, it's bigger than November. Oh, almost lost myself here. There we don't. Did I? No. Yep. It's bigger than November 3rd in the presidential election. I'm committed to getting Trump out, but I care about the long-term picture. Support our Black party and help us control our destiny. But again, why are you committed to getting Trump out? Because Trump had brought about in the brief time that he's been president, 3.5 years, he has created the lowest amount of minority unemployment, the highest wages for minorities in ages. But again, you're buying into the narrative. And again, this is one of those, I think there's various levels of stupid. Generally speaking, I like to think there's 3 levels of stupid. There's the stupid that it's like, this individual is truly ignorant, like they do not know. Whether it's because of lack of knowledge or they just don't understand, they've never been exposed to something. Those people I could give a pass to. I can give them a pass to the extent that, well, if you've never really been exposed or told otherwise, it's hard to tell you, it's kind of hard to blame you. Well, come on over here and let's talk and let's see if this might change your mind. Second level of stupidity is the individual that knows, but they're okay with being used. They seem to think that somehow that because they're fighting for a social justice cause, that is going to go ahead and make things better when they fail to see with their own eyes that in other countries, things like socialism and redistribution of wealth have caused the downfall of those countries. All one needs to do is take a look historically at Russia. What was it? Is it Brazil? Brazil, Cuba. Take a look at any communist, quasi-socialist country, and you will see a very, very terrible outcome. And then you get the third level of stupid. These people are in the know. They have all the knowledge in the world. They just decide to be I'm committed to getting Trump out. And why? Because your handlers told you to do so? Like, you truly know, you see the truth for it, but yet somehow you're insulated because you are wealthy enough, you're connected enough, or combination of the two, maybe more factors. That kind of stupid is really, really hard to combat because those people, those are believers. Nothing you can do, nothing you can show them, nothing you can say is going to change that. At least an individual like Ice Cube has been on the news lately. At least he's able to say, you know what? I went to the Democrat Party, I talked to them, and they say, you know what? Come back and talk to us after the election. And what fascinates me when I take a look at what Diddy said over here is like he talked to Charlemagne the God from the Black Breakfast Club, and it was like, you know, we're going to hold Joe Biden to a higher standard. Why aren't you holding it to him now? Why aren't you going off on him on the 94 crime bill or all the other garbage that he's talked about over the last 47 years? Why don't you qualify him on his statement about, you know, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. But don't hold him accountable for any of that stuff, right? No, that would make too much sense. No. So that level of stupid, I think, is just really, really hard to combat. You know, it's very frustrating. But let's see here. Got a few people watching up in here. Good God. Bumper, what's going on, brother? How you doing tonight? Jacqueline, how are you? Now let's take a look here in the comments. Tracy mentioned here, I love how people like P. Diddy show his true ignorance. Well, and that's a scary, that's kind of what I was just talking about. That level of ignorance is actually really incredible because, like I said, they're really in the know. They know the difference, but yet somehow they believe themselves to be insulated. And what's fascinating is eventually those people that are trying to galvanize, they're going to come to eat them at some point. You know, you're worth almost $1 billion. You're more than just the 1%. You're like the 1% of the 1%. And I think, like I said, Diddy's certain onto something. You want to get a pack together that deals exclusively with, you know, the black community or the black experience in America, however you want to phrase it, that's fine. I think that's great. But if you're truly going to be a political party, you really shouldn't be endorsing anybody and launching your own candidate. You really should be going out there and doing something for minority communities and the so-called disaffected individuals and trying to raise them. Oh, you know, bring back the family structure. But these are things that are taboo. You know, if you guys remember, we talked about a story not too long ago where they talked about the traditional nuclear family and hard work and, you know, growing up, doing what you're supposed to do, going to school, getting an education, furthering yourself. That's all, you know, part of being white. That's white culture. Now, if that's white culture, you can consider my brown ass white, okay? Because I like putting in the hustle. I like making things happen. I like putting in the effort to grow the fruits of my labor. But that's just me. Jacqueline mentions here the left is good at lying and selling the idea that they are the only ones that care. And they do it so extremely well. That's another thing that I've been really, really, it fascinates me to this point because I'm not a person who's big on emotions and touchy-feely stuff. I can't stand that for the most part because it takes away from the intellect. It doesn't allow you to logically process. Now, I'll also be the first person to tell you I'm not a balanced person. A balanced person will be able to use the mind and logic and balance it with heart and emotion. I am probably 80% logic in mind and 20%, I go 10% emotion and 10% bullshit. Yes, I'm a BS artist. That's Dr. Delgado, Dr. Del, DBS, Dr. BS. But that's only when I'm talking trash. That's only when I'm talking trash. But the point that you're making is that they come at you and they're very good with making it seem like somehow they're your friend. They really care. They feel your pain. And it's like, you only feel my pain, or at least tell me you feel my pain every time there's an election cycle. And, you know, it's only for those few months. I'm really going to work hard for the black community. I'm really going to work hard for the Asian community, the Hispanic community. But yet, you know, you want to talk about doing something over and over again and expecting a different result. Take a look at the last 50, 60, 70 years. Take a look at the dilapidated places like Milwaukee and Oakland and Detroit. places that have been constantly run by Democrats, and they have said and fed us the same line of BS over and over again, election cycle after election cycle. And throughout all of this, what have minorities continued to do? They've continued to stomp for Democrats. They've continued to push for Democrats. They have continued to do all of these things. And they've got nothing. Oh, sure, maybe they might have got a rec center. Maybe you might have gotten a street named after one of your whoever we're going to call them, your prominent figures. Maybe. But that's all you got. You got nothing to stem the tide. You are still in a high crime area. You are still in an economically depressed area. And all these politicians, they've continued to make themselves wealthier and created and carved out little fiefdoms of their own. Let's see here. We got Christina in here. And Christina, how are you tonight? She mentioned that, I can actually show the comments. I suppose I should do that every now and again. She mentioned he would have been able to do more if public school system was not failing them. Well, that's an interesting thing. Our public school systems are a complete and absolute failure. I've been very blessed. Our public schools where I'm located, we've had really, really great teachers that give a damn. But I'm also in an area where, we got like 15 to 20 kids per classroom, and the teachers have really good rapport with the parents, and the communication is phenomenal. But I'm also very aware of the fact that most other school districts are not like the one I'm at. But then again, I also made the conscious choice to go to an area for something like that. So sometimes you got to leave a sinking ship, and that's when it came to Milwaukee, that's what I ended up having to do. Let's see here. We got more comments on here. Yeah, Keith, you got a lot of cats running around yelling F Trump. It's kind of funny. They run around doing that. They don't even know why they're doing that. It's kind of like when you got that mob mentality. Interesting little point here. So, do you guys remember when you were a kid and your parents would look at you and they were admonishing you? They're like, boy, why'd you do that? And you're like, oh, no, sir, everyone else is doing it. And your father or your mom, they look at you and it's like, what the hell's wrong with you? If all your friends were going to go jump off a bridge, you wouldn't go jump off a bridge, would you? And you're over here like, no, sir, no, ma'am, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, you would. As a matter of fact, 2020 has been the year of social proof. And what I mean by this is that if you take a look at everything that's gone on this year, we do things because everyone else is doing it. Look at what happened with toilet paper. Look at the face mask issue. Look at, again, minority communities. Why are you voting Democrat? I don't know, because everyone else I know votes Democrat. Social proof. Let's see here. Yeah, that's another good one there. Anyone's better, and anybody is better than Trump. And I saw somebody, they had a yard sign that said that anyone but Trump. And I was like, I don't know. But then again, you know what? We've had people on The View that would say they would elect a child molester over President Trump. So I guess maybe Hunter Biden's going to be on the ticket. That'll be interesting here. Let's take a look here. What else we got here in the comments? All right. Oh, let's see what else Keith has here. The poop on Trump about not draining the swamp. Yet they endorse a guy that's been in office nearly half a century without doing anything significant. Well, he's done a number of things significant, and he certainly knows how to network. No doubt about that. But here's the problem when it comes to Joe Biden and just politics in general. When you think about it, we've got individuals, both Democrat and Republican, that have sat in their particular office as a career. We're talking 20, 30, 40 years. Hell, you know, Biden here at 47 years, coming on half a century. There is a problem with that. The framers of the Constitution, they never meant for this to be a career. You served your term, you went back to your field, your shop, you did whatever. You take a look at an individual like Joe Biden, all he really knows how to do is make deals, which in and of itself is a skill. The problem is that his backing is from the government. He has no idea what it's like to actually provide a service for an individual. He has no idea what it means to actually create jobs. He has no idea what it means to do a damn thing. When you take a look, when he became vice president back in '08, what exactly did Joe Biden do for the first few years? I mean, last I checked, Obama had him pretty much under lock and key, only setting up just a couple different things. So you take a look at a guy where his only real significant impact was a '94 crime bill, which I'm not going to sit here like a lot of people on the right and pretend like it was a bad thing, because up until Biden becoming the front runner of the Democrat Party, everybody and their mama didn't say anything about it. And honestly, at this point, I'm really tired of people getting all upset about something they just recently heard, because that '94 crime bill, for those of us in our late 30s and earlier, we were very familiar with it at the time. We were familiar with the term super predator that came from Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. And a lot of us were in agreement with it. The idea of a three strikes law. You know, you do something bad enough three times, you got three felonies, life imprisonment, you got to go, you got to go. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have with it is how it is administered. But there's a lot of problems with things that are administered wrong, because when you think about it, you know, if you're doing three strikes on a dime bag of weed, that's not kind of what it was intended for. If somebody's got their third strike because, well, I don't know, manslaughter, high speed traffic chase a year later, and then 5 years later they're caught with 20 pounds of cocaine. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. That's a career criminal right there. So yeah, you got to go. Let's see here. Got Patty in the house here tonight. And yeah, Tracy, that's absolutely right. Democrats only use minorities during election time to get them to vote for them. And that's about it. And then the rest of the time, they just kind of isolate themselves in their gated communities and their nice little suburban areas away from us dirty dirt people. Ooh, did I say that? Terrible. Christina mentioned on here, they've here they focus more on teaching social justice. Here's an interesting thing, and I have the picture on my phone, and I'm going to pull it up here later on. Now, I'll say a lot of positive things about the school district that I'm in right now, but they are pushing social justice issues. And one of them, and I'm paraphrasing what the sign said, but basically was that they want to get 100% compliance of all their teachers and staff and everybody to support diversity and everything else. And I will tell you, as a quote unquote person of color, I absolutely despise the word diversity. It makes me sick to my core. And the reason I hate it so much is because what really is diversity in its current incarnation? See, I get diversity and hey man, we got a little bit of everybody around here. Come on into the party, have a taco, sit down, shut up, enjoy, drink with me. That's, to me, that's diversity. But diversity in its current incarnation is this idea that I have to put up with your BS that I wouldn't otherwise put up with, whether it be some type of degeneracy that I may deem as inappropriate, sexualizing children, putting a transgender stripper in the classroom to read library books. See, that's not diversity, you know. So I have a problem when we take a look at its current incarnation. And let's see here. Jacqueline mentioned that Kenosha school district lost over $3 million in funding because of decreased enrollments for school year 20 and 21. And that's from all the people that are going to that have been doing homeschooling and everything like that. And that's interesting because I think it was the end of September, at least here in Wisconsin, where the attendance numbers were key in terms of getting funding. And I, as somebody who has a kid that goes to a public school, I'll be one of the first people to tell you, I didn't send my kid back. And I didn't send my kid back because of fear of COVID or anything else like that. My fear of it was, I think, several different ways. I did not like the idea of putting these kids in these plexiglass boxes, wearing masks all day. I did not want my son to think that this was natural, normal, or the quote unquote new normal. By the way, the next person that says new normal, I'm punching them in the face. If Antifa can do it, you're damn right I can too. No, I'm not advocating violence. I'm just telling you what might happen. But jokes aside, though, I did not want my kid to think that this was somehow normal, that this was okay, because it wasn't. This is not okay. This is not normal. Kids should be playing with one another, enjoying time with one another, and not having to worry about my being 6 feet of somebody getting cooties or whatever else. I did not want them to be a part of that. And then something else a little more ominous. It's 2020. I was afraid that something terrible could happen in a school district. Name your terrible event. Name something that hasn't happened in quite a while, and I pray to God it doesn't happen for quite a while to come. But you know, you want to gin up fear. That's one way of doing it. So I decided to remove my chess piece from that board, and we'll come into the next game and we'll worry about it at that time. Oh no, we got Joe Lozano, the repo man in the house. Hide your keys, hide your bicycles, your tricycles, and yeah, definitely hide your unicycles without the seat. Hilario De Leon, what's going on, brother? How you doing? I have not talked about Hunter Biden's laptop yet. All I will say about Hunter Biden and his laptop is the worst is yet to come, and the pictures are going to come. I don't have insider knowledge or anything. No, I just think there will be something out there and it will shake people to the core. So, Jacqueline mentioned here, same here. Let's get that comment up here. Well, actually, Christina's got it, something here. Tracy wants me to throat punch people. Keith mentioned diversity training or class means you weren't brought up right. Well, and it's funny because diversity training today is entirely different. Diversity training today is that you were brought up right, but that seems to go against the social justice mantra. And somehow you need to be re-educated. A lot of people don't think, well, we won't ever have re-education camps or anything in our society, in our time, but lo and behold, we have them right now. And they're not the camps and the gulags or anything that we know of. They're just tied to your employment. It's called work, which I don't know. For some of you guys, it's a gulag. I don't know. Anyway, Christine mentioned on here, Jacqueline, we took a hit too. That our enrollment is also down due to families not enrolling 4K, 5K students this year. That's interesting. I've always thought that the pre-K and the kindergarten enrollment was mandatory. Now there's that word again, mandatory. Did you ever notice? And I think 2020 should be a good awakening for a lot of folks when we start hearing that word mandatory. When it comes down from government, it's like, whoa, slow your roll there, Skippy. You ain't mandating anything. The government is not supposed to work by telling me what to do. We tell you. And we've kind of really gotten away from that. Let's see here. Jacqueline mentioned, same. We have 5 kids. We felt we had no other choice, so we pulled our kids and are doing homeschooling facilitated from Appleton. We are not fans of the virtual program that the Kenosha Unified School District had to offer. And what was interesting about virtual learning right now, and big credit to my wife who's doing a lot of the homeschooling, and of course our son, he's a very independent worker. I'll give him a lot of credit. I mean, kid's a slacker too. I mean, he'll get like a 5-minute break and somehow turn it into an hour. And then he'll get upset when he has to do homework at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, because now I've come home and all bets are up. It's like, no, we're going to sit down until this is done. But it's funny because in our school area and the teachers here, I got to give them credit where credit's due, because they have really tried to work around with a lot of this. Some of them they're on this hybrid schedule for the kids that are actually attending school, but they're also working with students virtually. So they're pulling double duties in a lot of ways. But it fascinates me because they're learning as they go. And one of the things that I didn't quite get here is, why didn't the school districts, school system, state school boards, why didn't they get in contact with places like, I don't know, University of Phoenix, Kaplan University, any of these online schools that focus primarily on online education? Why did they not cooperate with those people? And yes, I'm learning how to speak all over again. But why did they not get with those people and say, hey, you guys got the knowledge. We have a need here. What can we do to put a system together here over the summer that's going to be useful and beneficial to our students here in the public school system? Now, they didn't have to do anything where it's going to cost them billions of dollars or anything like that. And yes, it would have been expensive, but I think had they done something like that, they would have had a real good program to work across every school district here in the state of Wisconsin and probably in every other state. Now, some states I'm sure are probably better than others. Wisconsin, I hear, is depends on your school district. But Hilaria, what do you got in here? See, I'm always scared when Hilaria puts something up. He mentioned here, you got to be careful. Young John is going to teach him how to cut you. The running joke around here is that my wife has turned my son against me and it's a 2-on-1 over here. That's kind of true. But, and then Hilario mentioned here, people who think that Joe Biden is in charge of his own campaign are well, I'm sure he's got some other choice words in there. Let's finish out the show here tonight, because I'm trying to do like several other things here and pretending like I know what I'm doing. Jacqueline mentioned here, Wisconsin Connections Academy is the K-12 virtual academy we use. I don't know why KUDS didn't consult with them. So many resources, they chose not to. And that's one of those failures with the public school systems, I think, when you take a look at businesses like Wisconsin Connections Academy, like Kaplan University, Strayer University, University of Phoenix. All of these organizations have the technical knowledge to do virtual learning across various platforms. We're talking Mac, iOS, the iOS system, the Android system, Windows system, Linux. They can do all of that stuff there. They have the knowledge to do it. But I think oftentimes what happens is a lot of these school systems, these public school systems, they don't want anything to do with these so-called proprietary schools because it's going to somehow validate them versus their teachers unions and everything else. So I think there's probably a lot more at play at that. But the smart move would have been to say, you know what, we got a need. It needs to be handled. We got 3 months to do it before school starts up. Let's get it done. But you know what? There was a saying, and it says, those that can do, those that can't, well, they get employed by the government. Yes, I just said that there. Let's see, Christina. Most of them, like Phoenix, took a hard hit about 10 years ago. Oh, I remember. I used to be an admissions advisor for an online university, and they took a huge spanking. But part of that was because of some of the dishonesty from the admissions advisors. A lot of those folks were going over there telling these medical assistants that they were going to make, $90,000 a year. And the reality was that most medical assistants aren't going to make more than 14, 15 bucks an hour. So they weren't even going to get close to that. And it was ridiculous. I was an admissions advisor at the time. And it was kind of ridiculous watching how some of these people were practicing. It just got to be ridiculous. And eventually for me, I got tired of it and I had to get out. But that also went hand in hand with my philosophy when it came to leaving the big cities. I knew it was kind of like polishing brass on the Titanic. It's all going down. Sometimes you can't save the sinking ship and you just got to get out while you can. And that's what we did. Let's see here. And then Christina mentioned here, if people here or have friends that want to take a stand on what the left is doing through social justice teaching, join No Left Turn in Education. Christina, if you got that link, go ahead and put that up if you would be so kind. I would love to see that up there. And for those of you guys that would like to kind of get some information about that, learn a little bit more about that, and I'll do my research on that as well too, because that is something that we as conservatives, people on the right, we have really tended to advocate over the last several decades, really. And that's why the leftists, why the liberals have been able to take such a foothold and really strengthen down on and have a stranglehold on the educational system. We're talking K through 12 and collegiately, because conservatives decided to take their business and do things elsewhere rather than actually stay and fight the good fight. So, and let's see here. Another comment Hilario mentioned, Joe Biden becoming the nominee is equivalent to the kid in last place getting a participation trophy, but winning first by default since all the other players were disqualified for cheating. In a way. And you know what the biggest joke about that all is that you have individuals such as Puffy, Diddy, Sean Combs, and others that are saying this is the right man for the job, if you can believe that. Kind of ridiculous. All right, Christina said, go ahead and copy and paste into the Facebook, into your Facebook search bar. Beautiful. Outstanding. We will do just that. All right, guys. I want to thank you guys here for joining tonight. I actually went a little longer than I had hoped. I was only planning on going on for probably about 30 minutes. Going to try to do a few other recordings here a little later on, but we'll see how that all goes. But as always, make sure you guys go to our website there and let me make sure I pull up the stuff that I need to pull up. Whatever you guys do, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. Check it out. Make sure you go to our website. Our website is right down here. It's plusultramedia.com. The Caramel Conservative Podcast will be back on Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm sure I have a lot to talk about. We got some Hunter Biden action going on for sure, so I'll be covering a little bit about that. And whatever else. I mean, there's like a million different things out there. I mean, I could have a whole show written up right now. And by Tuesday, I could have to scrap the whole damn thing. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, check you guys out. I'm gonna go play. I was gonna play Fortnite, but I'm really not. I got some other recording to do. I'm out.